Welcome to Spirituality Step by Step. I'm Dan Wigner. Today I'd like to talk to you a little bit more about Lectio Divina. In my previous video, I talked about the basic form of Lectio Divina, and I want to talk about some additional variations today of that practice. It's a very foundational practice for Christian spirituality with lots of versatility as you experiment and explore for yourself. So if you come to the website, spiritualitystepbystep.com, and click with me on spiritual practices. That will lead you to this page and this list down here. And I'm going to click on Lectio Divina, additional variations today. On this page, you'll find lots of different suggestions for ways to customize, to experiment, and to explore with Lectio Divina. Please try any of these, all of these, or ones you come up with yourself. Really, the basic form of Lectio Divina, those different stages of lectio or reading, oratio or reciting, meditatio or meditation in the sense of concentrating and repeating, and contemplatio, contemplation, the moment of meeting God or having a spiritual moment in that experience. Think of those steps as kind of like waves that come along on the ocean shore. And you can adapt that not only to reading the Bible or other spiritual books, but in lots of different ways. I'd like to mention a few of them specifically, but please go through the list on spiritualitystepbystep.com and look at these for yourselves. One thing I would like to recommend, using a scripture passage to kind of start where we stopped with Lectio Divina, is take a scripture passage and instead of trying to focus on a word, use your 5 senses. If a word or a phrase or an image stand out to you, try to think about what would it look like? What would it sound like? What would it smell or taste or feel like? And use all your senses and kind of try to walk all the way around that word, that image, that phrase. Try that one out, particularly if you're a kinesthetic, a tactile person that you are hands-on, try that one. Another one is, are you a writer? Do you like to journal? Take that word or phrase and journal on it. Now, not necessarily on the scriptural passage, whatever word stands out to you, take that word and just go wild with it. Think about all the possible connections. It's perfectly fine to end up journaling about something that seems totally unconnected with the original scriptural passage. Might be closely connected, might be very different. That's one of the wonderful things about spiritual practice and exploration is you don't know exactly where you'll end up. Another possibility is, do you like to watch TV or movies? You can take the steps of Lectio Divina into watching a film or a show and seeing how God might be speaking to you through the interactions of the characters. And it doesn't necessarily even have to be a religious movie for that to be a valuable process. But it does need to be an intentional process. And many of these practices that I talked to you about, it's not so much doing them in a perfect order or a perfect method. It's about doing them with intention and attention so that you're focusing on what you're doing as you're doing it is a way to seek God in your life. Now, with that, I want to point out the very last way of Lectio Divina, and this is a much more expansive way, a much more lifestyle way than it is a discrete practice, but one I would encourage you to try to wrap your mind around as well. Is it says there, look at other people, your friends, your family, your coworkers, those you come in contact with on a daily basis. They can be seen as a book or a text for God to speak through. If we're willing to shift our perspective a little bit and think of each person as a way that God is speaking to us. And we can also think about we can be a way that God can speak to them. So with thinking of these few different variations of Lectio Divina, along with those written there on the website at spiritualitystepbystep.com, let's just begin again with the practice of Lectio Divina.